Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you pay taxes? It's a simple question, but the answer is far from simple. Let's dive into this mystery together. At the most basic level, taxes are a compulsory financial charge imposed by the government on its citizens. They're a sort of civic duty, if you will. But the big question is, where does this money go? What's it used for? Well, imagine your city without the roads you drive on every day. Think about what life would be like without the schools that educate our future generations, or the hospitals that care for us when we're sick. All these public services, and many more, are funded by the taxes we pay. Let's break it down a bit. Taxes are used to build and maintain infrastructure like highways, bridges, and public transportation. They help ensure that our children have access to quality education, from kindergarten all the way through to university. They fund our healthcare system, ensuring that everyone has access to medical care when they need it. They even support social services like unemployment benefits and pensions. In essence, taxes are a way for us to pool our resources and ensure that everyone has access to the basic services they need to live a decent life. It's a bit like a group of friends chipping in to buy a pizza. Everyone contributes a bit, and in return, everyone gets a slice. Now, this might leave you wondering, what happens if there are no taxes? What if a country decides not to impose this financial charge on its citizens? It's not a hypothetical question. There are indeed countries in the world where citizens do not pay taxes. So we pay taxes because they fund the public services we often take for granted. But what happens when a country doesn't have taxes? Well, as we'll see in the next scene, the answer to that question is quite intriguing. Stay tuned as we unravel the mystery of the Saudi Arabian exception. Imagine living in a country where you don't have to pay income tax. Welcome to Saudi Arabia. In this Middle Eastern nation, a unique financial phenomenon exists. Unlike the majority of countries worldwide, Saudi Arabia does not levy income tax on its citizens. This may seem like a dream come true for many, but it's a reality for the residents of this oil-rich country. So how does a country function without income tax, you might ask? The answer lies beneath the sand dunes of Saudi Arabia, in the form of vast reserves of petroleum. This country is one of the world's leading oil producers, and it's this black gold that fuels not just vehicles and industries, but also the Saudi Arabian economy. The government of Saudi Arabia primarily funds its public expenditures through its oil revenues. These revenues are substantial. According to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Saudi Arabia holds approximately 16% of the world's petroleum reserves and is the largest exporter of petroleum globally. This oil wealth allows the Saudi Arabian government to provide a range of public services, from healthcare and education to infrastructure and social services, all without the need for income tax. It's a system that's unique to countries with significant natural resources, and it's a system that has been in place in Saudi Arabia for many decades. However, it's important to note that while there's no income tax, other forms of taxation do exist in Saudi Arabia. For instance, a value-added tax was introduced in 2017, and there are also corporate taxes for non-Saudi entities. These, though, are a far cry from the comprehensive tax system seen in many other parts of the world. So without income tax, Saudi Arabia still manages to fund its public services. But how does this impact its economy? You might think that a country without income tax would struggle economically, but not Saudi Arabia. The kingdom's vast wealth doesn't stem from the pockets of its citizens. Rather, it comes from deep beneath the Arabian sands. Saudi Arabia sits atop the second largest oil reserves in the world, and oil sales account for about 90% of the country's revenue. This black gold has allowed Saudi Arabia to build one of the world's largest economies without levying income tax on its citizens. The government provides public services such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure, all funded by the country's oil revenue. It's a system that seems to defy conventional economic wisdom, where taxes are the cornerstone of public funding. But Saudi Arabia is aware that it cannot rely on oil forever. The finite nature of fossil fuels and the global shift towards renewable energy sources pose significant challenges to the current economic model. Recognizing this, the government has launched an ambitious plan dubbed Vision 2030. This strategic framework aims to diversify the economy and reduce Saudi Arabia's dependence on oil. Vision 2030 encompasses a broad range of sectors, from tourism and entertainment to technology and renewable energy. The plan also seeks to stimulate private sector growth and create jobs for the rapidly growing population. One notable initiative is Neom, a proposed cross-border city in the Tabuk province of northwestern Saudi Arabia. This futuristic city aims to incorporate smart city technologies and function as a tourist destination in a bid to attract foreign investment and diversify the economy. Saudi Arabia's approach to public funding is indeed unique. The reliance on oil revenue instead of income tax has shaped its economy in a way that's drastically different from most countries. But the transition towards a more diversified economy, as outlined in Vision 2030, shows that the kingdom is ready to adapt and evolve. Saudi Arabia's unique economic situation proves that there's more than one way to fund a country's public services. But what if you don't have oil reserves? For most countries, taxes aren't just a necessary evil, they're the lifeblood of a functioning society. You see, not all nations are sitting on a gold mine of natural resources, like Saudi Arabia with its vast oil reserves. Many countries depend on taxes to keep their economies chugging along. So why are taxes so crucial? Let's break it down. Firstly, taxes provide the funds needed to keep public services running smoothly. From the police force that ensures our safety, to the teachers who educate our children, to the doctors and nurses who care for us when we're ill. All these essential services are financed by our tax dollars. But it doesn't stop there. Taxes also play a key role in infrastructure development. Imagine trying to get to work without roads or bridges. Or think about how life would be without public parks, libraries, or even a reliable water supply. These are all examples of infrastructure that is built and maintained with tax revenue. Then there's the social security system. In many societies, taxes are used to provide a safety net for those who need it the most. This includes support for the elderly, the disabled, the unemployed, and families in need. Without taxes, these vulnerable groups could face significant hardship. And let's not forget about the role of taxes in reducing economic inequality. Progressive tax systems, where the rich pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes than the poor, are designed to redistribute wealth and create a more equitable society. Yes, nobody loves parting with their hard-earned money. But it's important to remember that without taxes, we wouldn't have many of the amenities and services we often take for granted. And more importantly, without taxes, we wouldn't have the means to support those who need it most in our societies. So the next time you grumble about taxes, remember that they're not just a necessary evil. They're an investment in your community, your country, and your fellow citizens. In the end, the taxes we pay make our societies better and more equitable for everyone. So, we've journeyed from understanding why we pay taxes to exploring a country that doesn't. This fascinating exploration has taken us through the intricacies of the tax system and the unique economic model of Saudi Arabia. Let's take a moment to recap. We started by unraveling the purpose of taxes. It's not just about filling the government's coffers, but rather it's a tool to fund public services, infrastructure, and welfare programs that we all benefit from. These things are essential to maintaining the standard of living we enjoy today and are a crucial part of what makes a society function. But then, we turned our attention to Saudi Arabia, a country that strays from this common path. Despite not having a personal income tax system in place for local citizens, Saudi Arabia has one of the largest economies in the world. This is primarily due to their vast oil reserves, which the government manages and uses the revenues from to fund public services and infrastructure, much like what taxes are used for in other countries. However, this doesn't mean that Saudi Arabia's model can be universally applied. Every country has its own unique circumstances, resources, and needs. What works for one may not work for another. And finally, we circled back to the importance of taxes. For most countries, taxes are crucial. They fuel the economy, fund public services, and allow governments to invest in the future. They are a key part of how our societies function and develop. So the next time you look at your paycheck and see the tax deduction, remember, it's not just money disappearing into thin air. It's going towards building roads, funding schools, supporting healthcare, and so much more. Remember, whether it's through taxes or oil revenues, it's all about ensuring we have the public services we need to thrive. Until next time, keep questioning and keep learning.